Hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Caris y estoy aprendiendo español. I have been learning Spanish for a few months now. I've been really investing myself on doing the work to learn Spanish. And so I've come up with a few tips, a few, cheat codes and things that I found have been working for me. And so I decided to share that with you so that you too can also learn Spanish. So when it comes to learning a language, there are 3 elements that are really important to consider and that you have to make sure that throughout your learning, you are working on those 3 criteria. So the first one is going to be your oral learning, so your speaking. The second one is going to be your listening, and the third one is going to be your grammar, your writing. So throughout the tips, I'm going to give you tips that help you work on each of those points. So when it comes to learning a language, the best and only way is by immersing yourself in the language. Immersion. That is the best and only way to learn a language. So the tips I'm going to be giving you today are going to help you immerse yourself and work on your oral communication, work on your listening comprehension, and work on your grammar, your writing skills. So the first thing I would suggest you to do is to put your phone in Spanish. So you just go to your settings, general, language and region, and you add Spanish and you put it as your top language. Like that, whenever you're on your phone, you're seeing the names of apps, and when you look things up on the internet, you're seeing everything in Spanish. So another tip that's still in the same realm as that is going to be putting other apps that you use on a frequent basis in Spanish. So for example, TikTok, which I know you and me both use TikTok more than we'd care to admit. And so I put my TikTok in Spanish, which means that instead of having a For You page, I have a Para Ti page. And so I'm getting my TikToks in Spanish, which is helping me, hear the language. It's helping me see how people write, how people, abbreviate things, what are the slangs, more like common Spanish. So that's really a good thing that I would recommend. Now, another tip that I know is very controversial is going to be Duolingo. Now, a lot of people say that, Duolingo, it doesn't help, it doesn't teach you anything constructive. You learn phrases like, mi gato come la pizza, stuff like that. But I really do believe that Duolingo is helpful. I honestly think that Duolingo helped me get at least 40 to 50% of the way there when it comes to learning Spanish, because at the end of the day, it's helping you conjugate verbs. It's helping you put phrases together. So now if you give me any verb, I can conjugate it to whichever pronoun without even thinking, because I've just seen it so many times and so naturally that it's become natural. You give me a verb, I can conjugate it, and you also know what the verbs mean, which is good because the base of any sentence is a verb. So Duolingo, don't get your streak up and keep going at it. Obviously, you can't solely rely on a language learning app, but I definitely think that combined with the other tips I'm going to give you today, it can be very helpful. Now, this is a tip that I haven't heard too much, but I definitely think is important, is that you should choose a specific country or accent early on. Because if you're just learning Spanish from anywhere and everywhere, you're going to have different countries will say different words differently. They will have different accents, different pronunciations, different slang, different vocab. It's very different. So I would choose an accent and stick to that one. So I personally have chosen the Spain Spanish, and so that's how I'm basing all my learning is on Spanish Spain. Now, another very important thing is going to be, again, when it comes to immersion is going to be your media, because I think you and me both consume a lot of media. In our daily lives, we consume media. Right now, you are consuming media. And so you should try to have all that media consumption be in Spanish. For example, I kind of have my tips written down. So that's going to be podcasts. Podcasts are very helpful. They work on your listening comprehension, and some podcasts have a transcript, so you can even put pause and try to read it yourself. If there's words that you don't understand, you can look them up. And you can like be doing anything. You have some schoolwork, you're cleaning your room, and you are actively listening to Spanish. So podcasts are very good. Another thing would be Netflix, watching movies, watching series, choose them in Spanish. And like I said, I have chosen the Spain Spanish, and so I try to primarily watch shows or movies from Spain. So I've watched Casa de Papel, Elite, Valeria, Entrevias, Vis-a-Vis, Las Chicas del Cable. I can't think of any other ones at the moment, but yeah, so you can watch YouTube in Spanish, find some Spanish YouTubers or Hispanic YouTubers, and that's also a great option. Again, in media, well, then there's going to be music. I think music has its own category. Listening to Spanish music is great because, again, you're working on your listening comprehension. You learn the lyrics and sing. That's also working on the oral aspect. So yeah, listening to music is also a great way to work on your Spanish. And also, I think that in any culture, music is very important. And so if you're already familiarizing yourself with that music, with that culture, it's also great when it comes to learning Spanish. So the next two are for practicing your oral. So one new way that I found is ChatGPT. So if you don't know what ChatGPT is, it's an AI platform that you're speaking with AI, you can ask it questions. ChatGPT is really like amazing, but there's now an audio feature, so you can have a conversation with your AI in Spanish and you can practice having a conversation.
Podemos practicar español todo lo que quieras. Dime, ¿qué te gustaría hacer? ¿Conversación casual, ejercicios, aprender vocabulario o mejorar tu gramática?
¿Podemos practicar una conversación para una entrevista?
Perfecto. Practicar para una entrevista es una idea fantástica. Primero, dime, ¿de qué trata la entrevista? ¿Es para un trabajo, una universidad o algo más?
So another app that I would recommend is called Hello Talk. Now with Hello Talk, you can practice your listening, your oral, and your grammar. So Hello Talk is an app where people from different countries who are trying to learn different languages can connect with each other. So you put your target language, so in this case Spanish, and then it connects you with people from many Spanish speaking countries, and then they are, let's say, trying to learn your native language, and then you guys can chat. So I've spoken with a lot of Spanish people where they just kind of like, once you start speaking Spanish to them, they give up on trying to learn English, and then they just answer in Spanish, and so you end up just having a Spanish conversation. You can call them, you can send voice notes, you can even translate voice notes if you're not really understanding. So it's really, really good. I've made some friends through it. The one thing I would say for the girls is that a lot of the guys on there think that it's like Tinder, and so they go from like trying to like learn languages with you to trying to fly you out to their country. So be careful with that. Not everyone is there just to like for a friendly conversation, but once you fish out those people, like, it's really good, and I definitely recommend it as a tool. And it also tells you what country they're from. So if you're really picky, you can like only speak with the people from the country you chose to learn that accent from. But yeah, so that's definitely another option that I would recommend. And then of course, reading books. Books are also great. They're going to practice your grammar, and if you read out loud, it can also practice, you know, your oral, your pronunciation. So I personally have this book called Short Stories in Spanish. So it's a bunch of different short stories, and then at the end of every chapter there's going to be like a resume, a vocabulary list for like the new vocabulary, and then some like comprehension questions. But I think it's good because since they're like short stories, they keep like your attention span, especially when it's like a new language. It's easy to like be overwhelmed, to be like, that's enough. But since the chapters are short, you're like, okay, I can do this. It's only 3 more pages. So this would be, reading is something I would definitely recommend too. So just to make a resume of this video, to help you learn Spanish, I suggest that you put your phone in Spanish. You put apps like TikTok in Spanish. you have the majority of your media consumption in Spanish. So Netflix, YouTube, podcasts, TikTok, music. That you use Duolingo, you can have a little streak going every day. It definitely will help you. Reading books, using apps like Hello Talk and ChatGPT to practice speaking. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just about immersing yourself in the language and being consistent. You know, like even if you're listening to a podcast or you're watching a show and there's a word that you don't understand, you don't have to get stuck on it. Just try to like understand the general context. And if there's a word that keeps coming up that you don't understand, then you can pause and look it up. But you don't have to do that every time. Just like listen to it, and like through the context, you can kind of get what words mean. So just kind of like go with the flow. Keep trying, don't give up. Like, it's really amazing when you see the progress that you make and how you understand more and more. Like sometimes when I listen to songs now, like I understand the whole song, and like it's really nice to see that progress. So just don't give up. And yeah, so yeah, entonces si has llegado hasta aquí, muchas gracias. Y si hay cualquier video que quieres ver, escríbele en los comentarios y hasta la próxima.